Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this live edition of Property Breaking News. Live because I'm joined by Andrew as usual, and we are in the studio, in the Property Breaking News studio. We've got two news stories to cover for you today. First is when a major house builder gets it so wrong. And secondly, we'll be covering what a lot of you have been asking about on YouTube, which is what's going to happen to interest rates? Are they going to go up? And what does it mean for you as property investors and developers? That's all coming up. So our first story this week is about when building projects go wrong. Have a watch of this little sketch.
How's it going, lads?
Yeah, all finished, boss.
Deepest well we've ever dug. What's the light at the bottom?
Well, we followed the plans.
Yeah, we did just what he said. You're supposed to be building a lighthouse.
Now that was written as a comedy sketch, but believe it or not, virtually exactly the same thing has happened in real life. And I'm joined by Andrew as usual. Andrew, hi there, how are things?
Good afternoon, Ranjan, and what a fantastic story
Tell
this is.
Tell us all.
Well, you couldn't write it if it didn't. Well, someone clearly
Someone
did.
wrote one.
Yes. Well, this is major house builder Persimmon Homes, and this is stressing the importance to everybody of managing their projects correctly. Now, in Colchester, Essex, 262 flats were built back to front. Yes, they actually put them back to front, and the council are now making them turn the building back around.
So what does that mean? I mean, do they install the toilets upside down, or what's going on there? How can it be that bad?
Well, it reminds me of when I was in Phuket in Thailand, and they built the house upside down. So what they've actually done is they've put the windows, the balconies on the wrong side of the building. So they're having to brick up and swap the whole building around 180 degrees on its vertical axis. What a cock-up. Now, I would not like to be the project manager. I would not like to be one of the architects who are overseeing this. I wouldn't want to be building control because they were finished units. 262.
And this is of course been covered in the major newspapers, covered over the weekend by the Daily Mirror, causing great embarrassment for such a major house builder like Persimmon Homes. But the other interesting point to bear in mind is that if you actually build something and it does not conform to the plans, then the councils have considerable powers.
They do. They can insist that you demolish the items or correct it to the exact detail and specification of the plans. So that has major implications, and that's why it's so important to get a grasp of your projects and know what you're doing and what everybody on your site is doing.
So what are the tips for getting this right? Is it just a simple matter of, well, hold the plans the right way up?
Or the right way round in this case.
Or the right way round. Is that the simple tip we're giving these people?
Well, I think the simple tip is, I hear a lot of people saying, oh, I'm just an armchair investor, I'm hands off from this project. You cannot afford to be hands off. You have to know exactly what's going on, and you have to be making all the appropriate checks. So when things are being sent to you, you check exactly what the plans were and you check what's being done. Now, we all know projects evolve over time, because when you're in the crux of a project, let's change the kitchen, let's make this a bit bigger. You can do internal amendments, but anything external that is conditional on that planning has to be to the plans. And I actually saw another story, which I thought was similar irony, which was a builder who didn't get paid. So he repossessed his bricks back, knocking down the work that he'd done. So that's the other side of the equation if you don't do it right.
That's phenomenal. Well, you've come up with a completely different tip to what I thought of
Okay.
My question was, how would you avoid doing it? My thing would be, well, as regular viewers will know, and by the way, if you're liking this video, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe. You know, more than 60% of our viewers aren't subscribers. I'm shocked at that figure, so make sure you smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you get notified as soon as we upload a new video, and like it means more people get to see this. But a tip for making sure this doesn't happen, my tip would be, regular viewers would know, we bang on a lot about permitted development. And I would say, well, don't build flats from the ground up, do permitted development, because you can't make that mistake, because permitted development means that the building, the foundations, the walls, the roofs, the windows are already up. You're doing internal reconfiguration, so you can't get the flats the wrong way around.
Absolutely. I mean, all you're doing is you're leaving the envelope as is.
Yes.
And you're just doing internal reconfiguration, which, from a planning perspective, you're not going to be bound by what you're doing, unless you're trying to create a 3-bed flat in 37 square metres, in which case you can't, because you've got to do a 1-bed flat for one person in 37 square metres. So there's subtleties that you've got to be aware of. But providing you're developing out on a permitted development, that is so good. I feel such a fool today.
It is ridiculous. Anyway, if you Perrysman Homes, if you're watching, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell icon, because you'll get videos each and every week which will help you avoid making similar mistakes in the future. On to our next story. We'll get back to the video in just a moment. What is the most exciting opportunity in property right now? And that is repurposing defunct commercial buildings to residential use. Now, most people don't really know where to start, what to look for, and how to exploit these opportunities. And that's why I've prepared 90 minutes of free training for you to get you started on this wonderful journey. You can register for this free training at property-workshop.com. Join me on that free training, and I'll leave you to enjoy the rest of the video. On to our next story is about the Bank of England, and we've had a lot of comments on YouTube. I've had a lot of email. Andrew's had a lot of correspondence about this as well. What do we think about rising interest rates? Interest rates, I mean, the Bank of England are putting out murmurings that they're going to increase, but what do you think of all of that? But increase from what? It's already pretty low. I mean,
well, we're at 0.1% bank base rate. So let's put it like this. If it increased to 0.2%, that's 100% increase in interest rates. Whoa, shock horror. But let's have a look at it. In the reality of it, 0.1%, most people are on fixed rate products. Yep. If they're not on fixed rate, they're on a tracker. All that's going to alter on that tracker is going from 0.1 to 0.2.
Yes.
So in real cash terms, it's small. But my thing is, ignoring what the Bank of England are saying, I think there's a lot of noise put into the marketplace. I actually disagree that interest rates are going to go up. And this is a game of who is going to blink first. Now, is it going to be the UK? Is it going to be China, US, or Europe? And I believe the US will be the party that blinks first. If we look at inflation, we're running at 3% in the UK. The US
you believe
is running
that?
Well,
it's probably 5-6, isn't it?
It depends on the indices, but
yeah.
To use published data of 3% versus America's published data of 5%, they are under more pressure to put up their interest rates. But if we put up interest rates, and if America put up interest rates, for example, it would cost the governments more money, because we've just come out of a coronavirus pandemic. Virtually every government across the globe has written billions of pounds of money. In America's case, trillions, and they were due to breach their debt limit. So what's happened is they've kicked the can down the road by upping their debt limit, which will take them roughly till the 3rd of December. Now, they're not going to raise their interest rates before the 3rd of December. Therefore, from our perspective, I don't think we'll be seeing our rates go up, because they never have in the past before America.
We're in a similar boat in terms of, I could think a lot of people get worried about what happened in the 1990s when interest rates doubled from 7 to 15% pretty much overnight. But I think people don't realise that in the UK, back in the 1990s, government debt was not even a third of GDP. Today, it's pretty much close to GDP.
Yeah.
So what that means is if the government puts up interest rates, the cost of servicing the national debt becomes unaffordable. So the government can't afford it, basically. And that's the big difference between back then. So yes, we tend to follow the US a little bit, but it may be just virtue signaling. And even if they doubled it or trebled it from where we are today, it just sends a signal, but it's no big deal.
I think I would agree with you, but I'd also suggest that the government want inflation, and it is the economists who are saying, we think the Bank of England are going to put up rates to control inflation. Well, the government want inflation. Why do they want inflation? Number one, it erodes the value of their debt. Number two, it increases the tax take they make off companies. And number three, will altering interest rates actually control the inflation? Well, if we look at the things that are running rampant inflation-wise, energy prices, be it petrol, diesel, or be it electricity and gas, well, we have no control over that. That's global marketplace. We've got price of goods from China. Therefore, is that going to impact us? No, because we're not in control of the containers, the price of goods over in China. They're struggling with rampant inflation. So it's not going to impact that. Then you look at things like the Evergrande and other Chinese property companies and the bubble there that's going over. Well, that's not going to affect our interest rates or our inflation in the way that I think us tweaking an interest rate 0.1, 0.15, 0.25% is going. So from our perspective, I don't think there's going to be anything big happening anytime soon. We want inflation, we want tax to go up, and the fact that energy prices are rising, inflation is not going to be tackled by the interest rate, and therefore that inflation will take pounds out of people's pocket and therefore pull back the inflation itself naturally.
That is a good point, because rising energy prices always results to a little bit of inflation, and the government does need a bit of inflation to erode its debt. And from a property investor's point of view, I find the majority of property investors that I speak to have basically fixed their borrowing at least for 3, some even 5 years. And that is a good move. So if you're looking at remortgaging, refinancing, it's a good time to lock into some of those fixed interest rates now, because although we're not specifically talking about buy-to-let mortgages, but buy-to-let borrowing and fixed rate 5-year products are particularly cheap now.
Yeah. Well, the new mortgage loans I've seen, some of them are sub 1%. Now
That's not buy-to-let though.
That's not buy-to-let, that's home buyer.
Yeah.
But what we're looking at on the buy-to-let is sub 1.99%. So all of it is very cheap debt at this moment in time. And as a property investor, if you're buying assets and you're buying them on a fixed rate and there's inflation in the marketplace, your asset is growing, but your debt is contracting in real terms. Therefore, it's beneficial to lock into a low fixed rate for a long period of time, and then you don't feel the pinch from any interest rate movements, but you also benefit when it comes to refinance, because a great way that people have historically made money from properties to remortgage their property.
Yes.
And therefore it's not income, it's debt, and it's not taxable.
But the other thing I think is here, I wonder how much the government is just trying to influence people's behaviour by making the right noises. And they're hoping that by making the right noises and putting all these stories in the media, that will be enough to change people's behaviour so they don't have to take the action.
Yeah. They would be irresponsible if they did not put into the media we are thinking of. And it's perhaps more not aimed at the consumer, but more aimed at the corporate, because lots of corporates are saying, oh, we're having trouble with recruitment, we're having trouble with supply chain logistics, we've got to put prices up. So I think some of this is a message being sent to industry, because industry has borrowed billions during the pandemic to prop themselves up in CBILS, bounce back loans and so forth. Now, okay, the bounce back loans are on a fixed rate, but CBILS isn't. And you will find that businesses who want to borrow money for the super deductions that Rishi Sunak announced in his last budget will be put off borrowing money to invest in assets if interest rates rise. So I think it's about just trying to get people to take the foot off the gas of putting prices up a little bit.
So just to wrap things up, there's a lot of talk about rising interest rates. They may rise an incy-wincy bit as a token, but for buy-to-let investors, for property investors, you should be on fixed rate mortgages. And if you're looking to refinance, get those refinancing in now. And of course, the other learning point from this particular video is when you are building new build properties, hold the plans up the right way round. Andrew, any closing remarks?
Persimmon Homes, I'm happy to project manage your sites and build them the right way. I will take 10% of your profits.
Now there's an offer you can't refuse. Tell us what you think about this video. Leave your comments below. Let us know any disasters that you've had building out your projects. Are they as calamitous as, thank you. There's a reason why I've got Andrew here in the studio. Are they as calamitous as Persimmon Homes? And tell us what you think about interest rates. Do you think we're in cloud cuckoo land? Do you think we're on the money on this one? Well, this video is on YouTube. Time will tell. Subscribe. Have fun in property. See you guys in the next video.
All the best from me. It's been great not being on a virtual coffee today.